A Russian cyber gang robs Western banks.
They would go for the $100,000 or $1 million wire transfers.
Their malware shows links to Putin's government.
When I saw the commands and the comments, I knew that it was something different from the rest.
Do criminal hackers help Russia spy on its enemies?
Я занимаюсь только разработкой софта, а куда они его применяли, я, честно говоря, понятия не имею.
What does this say about the country's hacking scene?
They think to hack Americans is like a heroic thing for them.
Over the past few years, I've reported for Vice from inside Russia, and I've witnessed firsthand the authoritarian power of the Vladimir Putin regime. I've also learned that hackers and intelligence agencies, like the FSB, Russia's state security service, have a murky relationship. The country's hackers make headlines around the world for thefts and politically motivated cyber attacks. Just ask Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee. But how strong is the collaboration between cyber criminals and Russian spooks? I'm in Pittsburgh, where a little-known FBI office specializes in cybercrime investigations. This is the spot where the feds disrupted one of the most sophisticated and lucrative malware schemes ever discovered. Gameover ZeuS infected over 1 million computers, creating a network, or botnet, that spanned the globe. Those infected computers helped hackers rob more than 150 banks around the world, stealing more than $100 million from US banks alone, and in such a way that was hard to trace. And CryptoLocker, a ransomware program installed by Gameover ZeuS, shut hundreds of thousands of users out of their own computers, until they paid to have them unlocked. After taking down the botnet, the FBI identified the mastermind as a Russian suspect named Yevgeny Bogachev, and made him #1 on their most wanted cyber criminal list. Scott Smith was the special agent who led FBI Pittsburgh.
And who was it targeting specifically, Gameover ZeuS?
It was mostly targeting banking industry or payrolls, larger businesses. It was trying to get the banking credentials, passwords, and get in and do large-scale wire transfers. They generally were not looking for some of the individual private accounts for $1,000 or $2,000. It just wasn't what they had so much access to so much larger accounts, they would go for the $100,000 or $1 million wire transfers.
The FBI pinned Gameover ZeuS on an organized group based in Russia, dubbed the Business Club. And at the head of it was a mysterious character named Yevgeny Bogachev, aka Slavic.
So who is the Business Club?
Business Club is a pretty close-knit organization. Each person had their specialty or area of responsibility. You know, those that would work on the infrastructure, those that would supply the mules that would take out the money, those that would create the accounts that would sweep the funds to, those that have more technical abilities to tweak the malware and direct it and put it out.
And we know that there's a certain character at the center of it, Bogachev.
Yeah, Bogachev.
So you're pretty familiar with this guy?
Yeah, he was in a sense, the head. He had both the technical skills and the criminal background to bring together the organization, to tie it together, to make it profitable. He's actually has a $3 million reward for the apprehension and prosecution. So that's the largest for a cyber criminal ever. That entices a lot of different people to help us out with his apprehension.
How has the Russian government cooperated with your office, with the FBI, with respect to Bogachev and some of these cyber criminals? Have they been easy to work with, or?
I'm sure they know who he is, and to the extent they would help us, that's more of a sometimes political question than it is a FBI law enforcement question.
But if there's anything I know about Russia, it's that the extradition of their own, especially to the good old US of A, is unthinkable. But there may be another reason that the indicted hacker Bogachev feels protected in Russia. After looking at Gameover ZeuS, a Dutch security company called Fox IT discovered that the malware had been retooled with an espionage component. The targets, which included foreign ministries and intelligence agencies, were written right into the code. And they were all in the wheelhouse of the FSB, Russia's security and intel agency that's the successor to the KGB.
When I saw the commands and the comments, I knew that it was something different from the rest. I started researching it and quite quickly figured out what it was.
This is Michael Sandy. He's a financial malware expert who's been tracking Gameover ZeuS and obsessing over Bogachev for years.
So what about that? There was a surveillance aspect to Gameover ZeuS. So it wasn't just stealing money, it was also espionage against very specific targets.
The most obvious ones were Turkey and Georgia, and later when the more recent Ukrainian conflict started, they started to target Ukraine as well. There were actual specific names of government employees that were listed in those search commands.
But would you say that the evidence suggests that in some way, some possible Russian agent with the FSB or some of their state intelligence services slipped some names or some search terms to Bogachev to insert into Gameover ZeuS?
Yeah, that is a very good possibility. Like there was just a large amount of commands, and they're, when you see them all together, well, this is not just, he himself just thinking up, search terms. This is something that was given to him, obviously.
There's a $3 million bounty on Bogachev from the US government. That's a lot of money.
It is.
But nobody's found him in the world. So what's with that? Why hasn't anybody found him, and why hasn't he been apprehended?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, I also don't know, because if I knew, then, I would be cashing in at 3 million, obviously. But, a number of things could have happened. Maybe he is now, full-time working for the government, or he has, really disappeared somewhere. It's really difficult to say.
With a multi-million-dollar bounty on his head, Bogachev is going to be a tough guy to track down. But even if it is next to impossible to meet the legendary Slavic, I want to get on the ground with Russian hackers to see the scene for myself. I'm in Moscow trying to learn more about the links between Russian black hat hackers and the country's spy agencies. I'm looking into the case of an infamous Russian hacker named Yevgeny Bogachev. He's the FBI's #1 most wanted cybercriminal. But rumor has it he's under the protection of Putin's government, and that makes sense. Turns out the malware Bogachev used to rob banks also contains surveillance software serving the country's geopolitical interests. Andrei Soshnikov is a BBC reporter in Moscow. He became known for exposing Russia's troll farms, which spread pro-Russian and anti-American propaganda around the world. I asked him about the hacking scene in Russia and how Bogachev fits into it.
Bogachev is a legend, of course, still #1 on the FBI list. I know his fans. Some of my people I know, they pray for Bogachev.
And why is he such a legend in Russia?
A great mind. He has he's so clever. They think to hack Americans is like a heroic thing for them. America is our former enemy, and it's our kind of enemy nowadays. Americans use their infrastructure to monopolize internet, and someday they can use it against us. So hacking them shows them that we are stronger, that we have the best minds.
Is the Russian government interested in bringing Bogachev to justice?
No,
going to jail?
absolutely not.
No?
No, absolutely not. Because they receive no punishment for hacking out of the country.
But so then how do some of these people get into the black market and work for criminal syndicates?
It's not a black market. You can call it black markets. It's just a free market. There's no security service that trying to put this down. They use it themselves because they can't afford to use hackers full-time. So they just can hire them. Speaking to ordinary people like me, I can use this black market too if I need. I can just connect to one website, and I can hire any expert I need in this cyber fraud, hacker, everything I need.
Russia may have some of the world's most notorious hackers, but it's also home to some of the world's best security researchers. I'm at the headquarters of the Russian cybersecurity giant Kaspersky. It's a private company, but it frequently works with Russian law enforcement in cybercrime investigations.
Looks like a government command center.
Yeah. So we have 3 rooms like this, Moscow, Seattle, and Beijing.
And is this all just code?
Yes, it's machine code of one of the most known, the ZeuS. ZeuS malware.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the larger-than-life big boss of Kaspersky, Eugene Kaspersky. He's known for throwing epic parties and as a pioneer of anti-malware.
Some people, they collect post stamps, butterflies. So I was collecting computer viruses as a hobby. And then my hobby slowly became my job.
But now you say that the best hackers in the world are in Russia.
Unfortunately, yes. Well, we estimate that now there are about a dozen Russian-speaking criminal gangs, cyber criminal gangs, which are very professional, and they're quite a serious problem.
And Kaspersky, as I understand it, is tracking some of these groups.
Yes, of course. There's a company mission to save the world, to save the cyber world.
Why is it so hard to catch people like Bogachev, who are these, brilliant hackers?
In some cases, they are really professional, so they can stay in the shadow for a long time. And for example, they don't attack victims on the territory of their own country. So the local law enforcement, they don't have the permission to start the criminal case, simply because there were zero victims on the territory of Russia.
With no victims inside the country, Bogachev and his group may not have to worry about the Russian authorities, but he's still the FBI's most wanted cybercriminal. I'm in Las Vegas to meet an expert on Russian cyber gangs. He made a name for himself by trolling the dark web and revealing the inner workings of several major crime rings. As you can imagine, Brian Krebs has also managed to piss off said rings. One hacker tried to get even with him by sending a gram of high-grade heroin to his house, and then phoning in a tip to the cops.
One thing I want to ask you about, because you said the Russian government condones hacking or hackers. What do you know about kind of the connections between Russian intel and hiring freelancers? What's the relationship there?
I've long suspected that some of the longest-running Russian hacker forums are actually run by the FSB.
Really?
I'm sure, because they have to know who these people are, and when they become useful for some reason, the government's not shy about making that desire known. Some of the guys that I've been able to track down, a lot of these guys kind of romanticize the way the Soviet Union was, and they sort of want that to be, they want Russia to be a superpower again. They want Russia to be somebody to be reckoned with.
Which brings me to another character, Bogachev.
He's a really interesting guy.
He's an interesting guy because one thing that we've seen in Gameover ZeuS, there was actual surveillance information or surveillance tools inside of his code. He was trying to gather stuff on Turkey and FSA and Georgia and Ukraine. Why would he have done that? This is a guy who's been only interested in money for this many years.
You increase your usefulness if you have that kind of access. So, and a guy like that would need protection.
Oh yeah, the FBI is very interested.
He's probably not able to leave Russia, ever. I mean, if he does, there's a good chance he'll get picked up.
I reached out to all of my sources and followed every lead, but I haven't been able to arrange a meeting with the notorious hacker, Yevgeny Bogachev. I heard he was living large in southern Russia under the protection of Russian intel. In fact, there was a rumor he even got plastic surgery to avoid being recognized. Bogachev or not, I wanted to see this Russian cybercriminal underworld for myself.
So I'm meeting with a famous hacker here in Russia named NSD, and he's a pretty interesting character because our local producer, Dima, said he wanted advice to buy shares in his new Russian company, and he was also concerned that the cameras that we're using would give him radiation. So this is going to be pretty interesting. Hello. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Oleg Tolstik, aka NSD, isn't of Middle Eastern descent and dresses in the style of a Gulf chic because it feels good, as he said to me. He was once a notorious hacker, rumored to be involved in carding and bank theft. But after he appeared in an infamous YouTube video, living the Russian hacker life, he supposedly went legit. Now he claims to run a public software company that's listed on the Moscow Stock Exchange.
So I did see a video of you before this. Do you know what video I'm talking about?
Ну, короче, очень много там разного резонанса вызвало, вот, и поэтому пришлось там перестать там консультировать разных людей вот по разным там серым темам, вот, и, соответственно, вот, как бы занялись вот именно вот этими вещами, то есть чем сейчас занимаемся.
So when you were younger, you were described as a computer genius. Was it tough, though, when you were younger to make money?
Ну, я начал с журнала «Хакер». То есть это журнал, который объединял в себя всех молодых специалистов в сфере хакерства, взлома. Вот. Я был очень молодой тогда, и как бы вот единственное, чем я мог заниматься, это компьютерными технологиями. Если бы я был постарше, я бы, может быть, пошел бы там в какие-нибудь бандиты, наверное.
So I know you don't want to talk about the dark side of the world of Russian hackers, but I'm going to be here for a few more days. Do you have any advice for me on how I can better report on that world? Do you think any of them would talk to me?
I think no.
Why not?
Боятся.
Oleg gave me a true taste of just how freaky and shadowy the Russian hacking world is. But I needed more and got the name of another supposed hacker with a colorful past. Warning, things are about to get even weirder. Meet a self-described hacker who calls himself NC. I found him in a typical-looking Soviet-era apartment block.
Holy shit. It's just, he's even got the weird TV going off in the corner for no reason. Very cool room.
Год назад ее сделал, как давно мечтал у меня.
So, what do you hack?
Если раньше приходилось применять какие-то приемы, чтобы взламывать сайты, всякие эксплойты, софт, программы, какие-то инструменты, когда я вернулся в большую игру, то оказалось, что все данные по существу открыты. Правда, это надо немного видеть.
So what have you hacked, stolen, and
Я не
sold?
продаю ничего.
Чем ты зарабатываешь?
Скажи ему, что этот вопрос мне задает и мама, и друзья, и так далее.
Why are you stealing all
Я не
this
знаю, это не мой выбор, скажи. Для меня это сухие данные, то есть это нет того, что найти компромат на такую-то шлюху там, или на такого-то деятеля политики. У меня просто данные. Просто мне их нужно больше, больше и больше.
He just got like, you know, literally.
No, I'm okay.
Еще какие-то войскомовские товарищи объявились. Это, допустим, вся эта информация может быть, допустим, полезна. Для чего меня...
Are you hacking Vice right now? Oh, that's weird. This got real in a hurry.
Пускай кто-нибудь из них скажет мне любой свой имейл на Gmail. Ну, там...
That's not gonna happen. I'm not giving him anything. It's clearly illegal. You say you have customers or clients. Are any of those, you know, the FSB, the Russian government?
Я очень плохо знаю этот мир силовиков. То, что я человек воспитанный, я не буду посылать людей, если они что-то меня попросят. Но когда они обратятся, у меня не будет выбора.
Just like a scene out of Hackers and would never answer a question and said everything is open, but I hack things. That was insane.
Here in Moscow, finding a hacker who'd talk openly about their relationship with Russian intel was near impossible. Until we prowled a local hacker bar and met up with a woman who calls herself EAS7. She's a known hacker and once worked on industrial espionage for the FSB.
And is it a regular thing for FSB to approach hackers, cybercriminals to do work for them? Is this something that happens all the time in Russia?
Могу только сказать одно, что наиболее, скажем так, практически всех, кого я знаю из тех, кто достаточно крут, где-то половина работает не напрямую на ФСБ, но на очень похожие структуры. И причем я точно знаю, что эти спецслужбы знают, что эти люди, ну, грубо говоря, принимают наркотики, ведут антисоциальный образ жизни, но они очень-очень круты, и они очень хорошо делают свою работу. И, в принципе, им достаточно хорошо платят, пока они делают хорошо свою работу.
Have you ever worked with anybody who could be classified as a cyber criminal, somebody who works in, groups that will hack things for money or for legal purposes?
Yes. Ну, в общем, да, я работала. Ну, скажем так, у меня был тяжелый период в жизни, когда мне нужны были деньги. Собственно, я в какой-то момент оказалась на улице, действительно. И, собственно, лично я ничего криминального не делала. Я в тот момент занималась написанием для них программ. Куда они их используют, честно говоря, не очень знаю. Но платили хорошо.
Is there a kind of unwritten rule that hackers in Russia don't hack Russian institutions?
Ну, лично мой принцип — не срать там, где живешь.
Those industrial espionage targets you were targeting, were they American companies?
Ну, мне кажется, ответ, да, ломали ли мы американские сайты, мне кажется, довольно конкретный. Как бы в прямой разведывательной деятельности никакого участия, в общем-то, я не принимала. Я занимаюсь только разработкой софта. А куда они его применяли, я, честно говоря, понятия не имею.
So, according to EAS 7, the Russian government hires freelancers to do some of its dirty work, and many of those same hackers are involved in criminal activities. Russian authorities don't seem to care much about their citizens hacking foreign targets, and those hackers may even be protected when they prove to be useful in other ways. That might explain why it's so hard to find Bogachev, and why it's so hard to attribute any attacks that come out of Russia. US intelligence officials, for example, are confident that the Democratic National Committee hack was directed by the Russian government. But that doesn't necessarily mean Putin's hackers were the ones actually responsible for it. Maybe this is an arrangement that suits the Putin regime. The government gets a steady stream of hacking talent that can act outside of the bounds of international law. And Russian officials also get plausible deniability for the attacks that ultimately serve their interests.